tough time slot, so I want to get you out of here. Isabella, why don't you, Isabella's got something she wants to share with everybody before we get started.
Good evening. Good evening. Those of you that don't know me, my name is Isabella Lovedina. I'm your court advocate. I represent Central West End. I support victims, and I go to court and represent Central West End again. Part of my job is to get the community involved and have them attend court regarding cases that have happened in your neighborhood. And also to get the residents to write letters or sign a letter to let the judge know how crimes have affected them and the businesses and so forth. We have a case coming up. It was a robbery. It occurred on March 4th of 2012. The defendant's name is Renard Gooseby. Him and an accomplice held a victim at gunpoint. Well, Renard Gooseby held somebody at gunpoint while the other one went through his pockets. On March 7th, Renard Gooseby was arrested. He pled guilty, I don't have that information right now, but he's being sentenced on June 7th at 9 a.m. in Division 5 at the Civil Courts Building. I have written up a neighborhood impact statement letting the judge know the negative impact that robberies have had on the Central West End. If you would like to, there's a sign-in sheet. The only thing you have to put is you're a resident of the CWE. I'm sorry, I did this. You're a resident of the, say, 4500 block of, and then whatever your street is, and then next to the X, just initial it. I'm going to go ahead and pass that around. And that's all I have to say, unless anyone has any questions.
How did that turn out on the last court advocate thing with the eyeglass robbery? That's already happened. Are we going to talk about that tonight, Jim, or not?
No.
It turned out very well.
Was she sentenced?
Yes, I believe she.
Yes, 7 years on the probation violation, and then the judge sentenced her to an additional 7 years on the theft, her most recent theft. And the sentences were to run consecutive, not concurrent. So,
She's in jail for 14 years?
well, Neil?
Yeah.
Neil's with the circuit attorney's office. He's also our neighborhood resident and our neighborhood contact. So,
She theoretically is, however, she could be paroled at the discretion of the Missouri Department of Probation and Parole. In addition to that, the judge has the option at the end of her first 120 days to perhaps put her on probation, and we're monitoring that, and I think we may need to organize the community. The judge would have to have a hearing before he did that, and I think we'd want to fill his courtroom with people to let him know what the community thought about that. But at this point, unless the judge does something, or unless she gets paroled by the Missouri Department of Probation and Parole, she's in for 14 years. Do I think she's going to be in for 14 years? No way. Unfortunately, Missouri Department of Probation and Parole does not view this as a violent crime or the kind of crime where they're going to keep someone locked up for that period of time. And they're going to try to supervise her out in the community, and I fully expect when they do that, she will commit more crimes.
Oh, wow.
unless perhaps a rare individual gets rehabilitated and gets, I think her problem was substance abuse.
Right.
And if she
She had 18 convictions over her career. I mean, she
Right.
does seem to have established a pattern.
And how many people came from Central West End on that day? How many residents showed up?
I think there was about 6 of us.
Only about 6. I know. you don't
Well,
like that.
here's the problem. When we send out alerts about, hey, can you show up to court? Everybody shows up to court, and then the judge says, well, it was scheduled for 10, but we're going to go at 1. And I think that was the case with this. Actually, one of the hearings, we waited around for almost 3 hours, the one before that, which is very inconvenient for people to
Yeah.
take off work, but
But you know, even 5 or 6 people from the community in the courtroom matters to most of the judges. They, you know, they don't like bad publicity. They don't like bad word of mouth. They periodically come up for retention votes. Some of them have aspirations to be Court of Appeals judges, so they're not really looking to antagonize communities, especially this community, which is one of the more influential communities in the city. So even a few people showing up matters.
Great.
And
Thank you.
also the victim showing up.
right. Yeah.
That's a big difference.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
You guys know the ground rules. We try to keep it at least in an hour. If you've got a cell phone on, put it on vibrate. And I don't know, the guests are like, be respectful. Yes, what's that all about? We're a very well-mannered, well-behaved group here.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. We're gonna start off by recognizing Officer Joe Hill and William Gillen, who just showed up. Yesterday, about 1 o'clock, and let me know if I screw this up, but yesterday about 1 o'clock, one of the residents that lives over either on Pershing or Maryland in the 4500 block, there's an alley there, and saw a suspicious person that was jumping over some fences and some houses over there. So they called the police and they gave a good description of him, and then these 2 fine 9th District officers showed up and were able to locate that guy. And he, you can't make this stuff up. He was released from the Department of Corrections on May 17th for burglary. He did 99-day shock. It's a St. Louis County case, and he was given 5 years probation. And so the 17th to the 28th, yesterday, less than 10 days, he's in the Central West End, picking up where he left off. So they did an excellent job of finding this guy. They cited him for trespassing. He was taken to the station and interviewed by the Detective Bureau. We have contacted St. Louis County's prosecuting attorney's office. Isabella did. We've asked that a probation revocation hearing be initiated, and that's how it works. That's how it works. Someone called 911, which is what we're going to talk about tonight, gave a good description, helped the officers identify the guy. They did a thorough job, found him, he had duct tape in his possession, a flashlight, some other things. So they looked at his criminal history. He's got a history of this sort of activity. So they didn't just get his name and let him go. They did what we hope they do. I know it just happened yesterday. The ink's probably not even dry on some of the reports, but they get off at 6. I just wanted to bring them in front of you folks to say thank you very much. Thanks a lot. That's awesome. That's how it works. That's how it's supposed to. Our guest speakers tonight are Shift Manager Jerry Adams and Sharon Bilberry. They're both with St. Louis Police Department's Communication Division, the 911 people. So this is going to be very interesting. I'm going to talk about Paul Hankhouse. He's our new neighborhood ownership model officer, and then we'll close out. So I just spoke to you about the trespassing arrest that the 2 officers made, and that's just a recap. So our guest speakers tonight, Jerry Adams, it's funny, I recognize their voices, but I couldn't tell you who they are because we're so used to hearing the dispatchers on the radio or talking to them on the phone. But Jerry's a shift supervisor and he's been a shift manager and he's 27 years with the police department. And Sharon has got 12 years. Also, they're new. I asked their commander to come speak, but he's only been in the position for about 30 days, or 40 days maybe. So 45 days, but who's counting? So he did what we all do. We surround ourselves by very competent people who can answer any questions. So Ron Dambeck is the commander of the Communications Division. So thanks for coming. if you can read that. So our St. Louis Police Department's 911 system is, they answer all your 911 calls and they field calls requesting a response from police, fire, and EMS. Most people don't realize they're responsible for fire and EMS. Now they can redirect those calls to others, which they'll probably talk about. But I think this is staggering. They handle over 800,000 calls a year. And I'll bet you there's not that many people that work down here. So please welcome Jerry Adams and Sharon Billerby.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having us. Again, my name is Jerry Adams, 27 years. I'm the shift manager. Sharon Bilberry's a communications specialist. She's very good at her job, and she loves public speaking. Again, if Lieutenant Dan back were up here, we'd be up here until past midnight, so that's why he's sitting with that. What we're going to do is got some frequently asked questions here. Sharon's going to go over them, and then we'll have any questions y'all might have. We'll be more than happy to answer for them. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Sharon.
Thank you. We received some questions that were frequently asked, and we wanted to answer those questions tonight. One of the first questions were, when should I call 911? And whenever you feel that you are in danger, or if you see that somebody else is in danger in a life-threatening situation, that's the best time to call 911. We also have a non-emergency number. I don't know if all of you are familiar with the number. It is 314-231-1212. That number is normally used when you don't have a life-threatening situation. A lot of the citizens don't know how to differ between the two, so they call 911 for everything. So the system is set up to where if you dial 911, that means that that's the highest priority call that's coming in. If you're calling on a 911 call with a non-emergency, it does not know how to decipher that. So we get all those calls intertwined together. So we can get the citizens to dial the non-emergency number within a non-emergency situation, and will help out a whole lot because the system can't do it. Another question you had is what to expect when you dial 911. Sometimes you may get a recording, and sometimes you get that recording, and some people say, well, they put me on hold. We're not putting you on hold. It's just letting you know that all the evaluators that are there at that time, they're on a call with someone else, and the system is letting you know your call is important to us. Do not hang up. The next available evaluator will answer the call. When we do answer, what we're asking you to give us is the most important information is where. Where do you need the police to come? A lot of times people will say, well, just send the police. We have no idea where you are. So in order for us to help you, we need you to give us that information. A lot of times it's that we ask too many questions. If we don't ask the questions, we don't get the information. And then they'll tell us, well, just send the police, don't ask any more questions, I want them now. What they don't realize is this is for the safety of you and also the responders that are coming to where you need the police. They need to know if this person is armed. They need to know if this person is black, white, male, female, Hispanic. If this person appears to be intoxicated or has any type of derogatory things that are going on, we have to know that. When the officers are coming to you, if you fail to give us suspect information, they have an idea if they're passing right by this person. If you give us vehicle information, suspect information, we'll know what we're looking for. But if we don't have that, we can't work accordingly. So when you give us that information, we're asking, and we repeat a question over and over, it's because we need that information given to us. We, just like you on a job, we have a requirement that we have to do. We have to ask certain questions. If you don't answer those questions, we're going to ask you again. They're going to keep asking you until you give us that information. But if you don't, if you give us the location or whatever, we're just sending the officers in. However, if the officers are responding, if they can get a feel for what they're responding to, that helps them to assess the situation. Then we had another question about, can you ever find out what the disposition of your call was? You can do that. We have a public information number, and that number is 314-444-5603. 444-5603. You can call that number to find out the disposition of your call if it's a minor situation. If it's something on a more serious level, you can call 314-444-5405, and that's Internal Affairs. We also have the Citizen Service Bureau. That number is 314-622-4800. That's the number you can call for abandoned buildings, high grass, rubbish, or what have you. A lot of people call us and they say, well, we have this car that's been sitting here for 7 months or whatever. Those calls can go to Citizen Service Bureau. Also, like the stray dogs. We have calls all the time about, we have this dog running around, can you send the police? But the police are not trained to catch dogs. We don't even have the equipment to do that. But that number can be utilized for a whole lot of situations, and it is on the website. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the, what's the department? Where they can go online and enter everything on there. If you have like a complaint of some sort, you can go online and you can enter it, and it'll go to that department. You don't have to actually speak to someone. And when you dial 911, you don't have to say your name. You can always remain anonymous because that's your right. And a lot of times people say, well, I don't want to leave my name. That's fine. But at least give us some information that we can work with. If we don't have that information, then we can't do it.
Some people want to talk to the police in person. Most people don't. Can we call you by phone? These are a lot of the questions we ask. Would you like to leave your name? No. Can we call you, can the police call you if need be? Sure. Or no, I don't want nothing to do with it. So you were completely
But we have to have that information. You're our ears and eyes. We can't see and hear everything. So if you give us as much information as possible, it helps us to get the job done as accurately as we can. Yes.
The phone numbers again, 231-1212 for the
Non-emergency.
And what was the citizen service?
The Citizen Service Bureau number is
622-4800.
4800.
This will all be on our website. too,
Right.
by the way.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yes.
So what number would you suggest someone call with a noise issue?
On what issue?
A noise issue, loud music or something along those lines?
The
Is that-
non-emergency
is-
number.
Non-emergency?
Yes, sir.
Pretty much life-threatening. How it works, if you call 911 and she calls 231-1212, you're up here.
Right.
Your call is going to be answered before hers because she called the emergency. We get a lot of complaints about, Sharon touched on, about being put on hold. We don't like that. We're just backed up. We only have so many people answer 911. So you can imagine an accident on the highway. Everybody with a cell phone driving up are calling us. We are jammed up. We could be backed up 30 calls. They will not stop calling until they see first responders on the scene. So I don't know the answer to that. I wish I did know an answer to get that. But understand that it could be a huge, huge deal going on, and everybody's calling about that one incident. So keep that in mind when you're calling, and I know it's frustrating.
We've even had people call in the same car. And they're calling out. And you can hear them talking to the other evaluator. I'm like, can you tell that person to hang up or you hang up? One of the two. But everybody wants to utilize their cell phone.
The critter calls, like there's a possum on that one. People go nuts over that stuff.
Yes, ma'am.
So what happens with those non-emergency calls? How are they handled, such as a police station?
They're handled the same way as a 911 call. However, we have a priority system. Okay, somebody gets shot. Obviously, that's priority one. Somebody robs a bank. Priority one. We're going to go to those calls before we go to your parking violation or to your unnecessary noise call.
So there's no way that you could just say, press 1 for a life-threatening emergency? Would everybody press 1 anyway?
We don't have that capability.
No?
Maybe down the future, who knows?
That's a good idea, but
Well, I think that question goes into, what if I can't remember the non-emergency number? Is there any repercussions if you call 911 and it's not a non-emergency?
Nobody's going to smack your
No.
hand.
Okay. Question 2, if I call, can you explain how, if I call from a landline, and there's a crisis going on and I can't explain it very well, or calm down, you can
You
trace that
can't
call.
speak for whatever reason, let's say it's a domestic disturbance, and you call from a landline. We know where you are, we know what your phone number is.
What if I call from a cell phone?
A cell phone is a whole different thing. We do have a locate call, so if you call 911 on a cell phone and you need help, you don't know where you are, or whatever the circumstance, we got a button we click on and it will narrow down to where you are approximately. Now, if you were standing on this corner, or if you're in this building and you leave an open 911 call, are we going to go around and check every single building and every single room? Impossible. We can't find you that way. So, but if you're able to speak, you can say, okay, what do you see? Are you in the library? Are you on the corner? But if you're unable to speak, we're going to send a car by, but the odds are probably not going to find you if it's a residential area, if you're inside of a house. But it's important to keep that line open.
If someone's calling about a suspicious person, and this comes up quite a bit, the average person just knows something looks funny or that person's out of place, but they really don't know how to articulate that. Like they lived in the neighborhood 40 years, they've never seen this person, they're in the alley, they're not wearing a work uniform that would indicate, and I think a lot of frustration builds up. Well, I just know that, they don't belong, or they feel strange saying things like that. Any advice you could offer people on what to look for in a society, cutting the grass and walked out of the gate? Well, we can easily explain ourselves out of calling. But, any advice you could offer people?
Basically, you got to go with your gut. If you feel that strongly that this is out of place for whatever reason, don't hesitate to call. It doesn't hurt. This guy could have done something. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? We're going to send a car by, he checks out, he goes on his way.
That's exactly what I was just gonna recommend. If you're not sure, hey, you know what? Let us be the ones to make that guess. We'll be the ones to come out and check them out. It's just so much easier. You'll be second guessing yourself. We had a call the other day where this person kept second guessing himself. They saw a guy driving down an alley with a little boy in a car. It's kind of a strange situation where the guy didn't look right, the little boy didn't look like he was related to the guy, but they weren't real sure, so they just kind of chalked it up. And then later on, the conversation came up at dinner table. Why did you call? This little boy could have been kidnapped. He could, So if you, when in doubt, call us. Let us figure it out. Okay.
We have a saying at work, same thing, Lieutenant. When in doubt, we put it out. That saves us, and it just makes everything much easier.
Going back to the location conversation, what proximity can you tell someone's in? Is it like a mile?
Oh, no.
No, it's a lot closer.
It's like within, I'd say, less than a block.
Probably a block.
I think at one point, they had it down to several hundred feet.
Right.
I'd have to verify that, but last word I heard was within several hundred feet.
But there's also another, if you have a cell phone and you can have the tracking on your phone, a lot of people don't know that they have it, so they don't utilize it. But if you have like a Sprint, Verizon or what have you, there's a number we can call and give them your number and figure out where you are, if you have that capability on your phone.
We do a lot of tracking of cell phones now. It's
Go ahead.
How many people staff that 911?
We prefer to have, right now our number is 6. One's on break, so you got 5. We have 2 supervisors on duty at all times, and if we get backed up, one of the supervisors will pick up 2. So ideally, we'd like a lot more, and Lieutenant Danback has assured me that help is on the way.
Awesome.
So we do need help. We are short-staffed. We have to give vacation. People call in sick, and so on. We do the best we can with what we have.
I had to get my calculator out, but that number was staggering to me. 800,000 calls a year. That's like 2,000 calls a day.
And imagine our watch, Sharon.
We have the busiest
We
watch.
handle over 60% of those. We work between, our hours are 2:30 to 10:30, so imagine 65% of those are just on our watch.
But you also have to realize we get 911 hang-ups. We get kids playing on cell phones.
Yeah.
We get people calling just to get a number for Barnes Hospital. They want a taxi cab number. They
Yeah.
want to know if somebody's in jail. They call for numerous reasons. So
And
they're
that counts
not
fire
all criminal
department,
offense.
EMS, all that.
Where is the center?
1225 Spruce.
Just directly behind the St. Louis Police Academy on Spruce Street.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Is texting 911 something that's on the horizon at all?
I sure hope not. But we're not there yet.
Not yet.
I just want to add something else. A lot of people don't really understand. As a police officer, you go through so many months of training before you go on the street. Then after you go through that training, you're put on a probationary status for, I believe it's a year now. You finish your 1-year probationary status. What you have to understand is Jerry can do every job that's up to communications. And by that I mean he can answer the phones, 911, he can dispatch, he can run the computer. It's kind of a unique thing when you're sitting up there at Council 10, he has at least 8 computer screens in front of him, and each one of them has something going on it at the same time. CS2s are the highest, basically the highest dispatcher you can be, besides a shift manager or a supervisor. Their training status starts off as a communication specialist trainee, which I promise you, we are getting some. Okay? They're coming. That starts off, and they work from a CST to a CS1. And the CS1 has a little bit more skills. They can do a little bit more computer work and dispatch at the same time. And in a CS2, you become a well-rounded individual in more ways than one, and you can do just about every job up there that comes your way. There's different things that they also monitor that a lot of people don't know. The electronic tracking system, ETS, which a lot of people aren't familiar with. The police department or police officers can explain that a little bit more, or Jim can. That's a tracking device that's used, that we use to catch bad guys who break into cars or rob banks and things like that. That comes up on their screen. Council 10, where supervisors or shift managers sit. And it makes all kinds of bells and whistles. My first week there, I was running out on the floor every 10 minutes because I didn't know what the whistles and bells were. I hear an officer in need of aid, I hear ETS going on, I hear a bank robbery, I hear a pursuit, and I'm thinking, I don't know how they do it. There's a lot of requirements that a lot of people don't really understand that they have to go through now. As a police officer, you have to get a psychological evaluation before you can become a police officer. That's now one of the criteria to become a dispatcher. It's a very stressful job. You know, these folks, and I tell everybody, until I got upstairs to the 3rd floor of communications, I knew what to do on my side of the radio. Now I'm taking a look at what they're doing, and I'm going, wow, your job's just as stressful as the one out on the other side of the radio. So, you know, help them out a little bit when you call. They're going to ask you 100 questions. They're going to be stressed. They're going to be going, come on, I need you to give me that answer. I know you got it. Spit it out. And, you know, they'll try to pimp you for a few answers, and, you know, just bear with us. We will ask you a lot of
We
questions.
do understand when you call 911, it's not good news. So we understand that you're under a lot of stress when you call us. So we're very understanding of that. So just keep that in mind. We're, like Sharon said, you're our eyes, you're our ears.
Right.
Without you, none of this can be done. So,
So thank you.
you have one more?
Just as a point of clarification, so when they saw the man jumping the fences, is that like a 911 call, or is that a?
I would consider
12?
that, a 911. Guys jumping fences around the neighborhood, he's doing
If you suspect there's a crime
something
that's being
wrong.
committed,
Yeah,
then you
it's
call.
something that's occurring now. This is definitely suspicious when you're, you know, so yeah, I would definitely call 911 for that.
Yes, ma'am.
We live in a black building, and we've been told that if we use our phone to call 911, say for a medical emergency, that 911 will hold us on the line, and we won't be able to hang up and call the guard to tell the guard to let the folks in. Is that true?
I don't believe that's true. If you live in a secure building, hopefully you would tell us you live in a secure building. You would tell us what the code is to get down, or if you do have a security guard in your building, he should be down there waiting on us.
Well,
So are you talking about police or medical emergency?
Well, generally, this would come up in the case of a medical emergency.
Because they have different protocols. I don't know how they do.
But you would let
Because
us.
we transfer it over to them and they handle it.
I see.
Yeah, so whatever protocol they have.
So
we
when
would
we
have.
call 911 and say it's a medical emergency.
We
you're supposed
actually
to
transfer you over to fire or EMS, yes.
I see.
And their
Most-
protocol could be totally different.
Most
from
calls are for the police, so we handle it. Police, fire, we handle at least what, you say 85%? EMS 10%, fire department 5%. That's a rough guesstimate. So sometimes we're all needed. A car's flipped over on the highway, people are injured, people are trapped, so we need fire alarm, we need EMS, and we need PD.
So in the case of a call, a 911 call to the police, once the call is made, the phone is, you're able to hang up the phone and make another phone call?
Yes. You should be able to.
So you're not
Are
going
you
to hold.
talking after you've talked to us?
Yes, once I've called you and said.
Yeah, you can get on the
there's
phone, and
gunshots
you can
out
get
there.
on the phone again, especially if you don't want to be contacted.
Okay, so we can then hang
Yeah.
that call.
And if we need to get a hold of you bad enough, we can do an emergency breakthrough on your line, unless you're on a cell phone. I don't think we have that here. But landlines are, you can do that.
So it's not like the movies where you say, you have to hang on the line with me, do not hang up, do not hang up.
There are certain situations where we want you to be on the line with us. She explained this one real quick. I know time is short here. This is a good one.
The question that he just asked about not hanging up, a lady called 911 and she stated that she was on the landing, she was visiting, and she wanted to take pictures of the sunset by the arch. But this guy attacked her, and he was getting ready to rape her, and she asked him, can I go and use the bathroom? Well, he watched her, and she had her cell phone open in her pocket. She dialed 911, she said, I can't talk. She said, I'm by a barge. She was explaining, telling me where she was and what have you. And she said, I'm gonna leave the phone open. She said, but don't say anything because he's gonna be able to hear you. And I could hear everything that was going on. So I sent the ticket to the landing, and we had the officers to go down on the riverfront, and we had them to turn the sirens on one by one. And each time I heard the siren on the phone, I asked which car that was. And we kept doing that until we got closer and closer, and they got them. But she was smart. She kept her phone
She
on.
did. She was very smart.
And they were-
And so again, that arrow pointed approximately
Approximately
to where she was. So she was able to explain.
That was you, huh?
That was me.
Yeah, it was very. I think you got it. Do we have any?
Gotta be some more questions.
You gave number 4440653, I believe. What was that?
0653?
If I got it right.
That's probably,
Oh, that's
public information.
information, and the other one was internal affairs.
Is there a,
603 might be the internal affairs.
No, it's,
To get a disposition of a call.
yeah, that's something big. We can't give any information out. So you can't call 911 and say, hey, what happened with the call? We are not allowed to give that information. That's,
A lot of times, we also might refer you to, I know Dan was here earlier, we try to refer you to the public affairs officer or community service officer.
Right.
That's something that was very big, and a lot of times, if you work with public affairs officers, you can say, hey, this drug house in the 2200 block or 225 North Euclid is just killing us. And all I want to know is what the outcome is. I'm telling you, they're selling drugs. Can I call you back and get some kind of information? You know, you the citizens, and I learned this when I was in the 6th District, and Jimmy, you were up there with me. We learned, the people up there, hey, we'll call the police, but we want to know what happened. Did you kick in the house? Did you get guns? Did you get dope out of the house? Hey, you know what? I gave you a number to call. You left your name and number, or you left the number, I'll call you back. If you don't want me to identify myself, I'll just say, hey, that request you made, it was successful, and I wanted to let you know, thank you for your information, and I hang up the phone. But we want to know, when you're on the other side of the phone, even myself as a citizen calling 911, I want to know what happened. I mean, now, we're not going to tell you, oh yeah, we took the guy to the hospital, he's getting stitches in his leg. And I know that's a little far-fetched, but if you're calling about a drug house or a known dope house that you've had issues with, or a problem property, you want to know what the status is. Just like the Citizen Service Bureau, and I know this very well because I worked with them very close at one point, you call them, they'll give you a work order number. Hey, follow up with that work order number. That's your right as the caller. You don't have to give them your name. Hey, look, I don't want to get, I just need a work order number. Get that work order number, and they'll tell you, hey, in 14 days it has to be corrected or whatever. And you call back in 14 days. Hey, did they get that drug house closed down? The gutter was falling off of it, the windows are broke? You have the right to call back and check on that. And like I said, the public affairs officer is probably going to be a better officer to contact when you're following up on something. Hey, I called about this. You can bring it up at a meeting and share that information with, Mr. Schulte, Officer Schulte, or one of the officers at the station.
And it is very, you remind me of something, Lieutenant. We, patrolmen, the officers can't kick in your door if they're selling drugs inside the house. So keep that in mind. We have numbers, again, here's another one. 241 COPS.
Yes.
241 COPS. If you have a drug house, call that number. Get a hold of your neighborhood stabilization officer. If they're outside selling dope, we can send a car that we're going to want. Who's the main guy with the dope? What does he look like? Is he black, white? What's he wearing? All those types of questions. Then we could send a uniform over there and bam, hopefully get them. But if it's just a drug house, we got to have a warrant. The officer has to have a warrant for that.
I'll give you some more on that. I'm Sergeant Nelson. I'm with District 9. And when they start talking about the drug houses, the information that we need for the drug houses is if you see cars, and you constantly see new cars coming up to the building, what you need to do is start writing down license plates. Okay? Oh, this car came over here at 3 o'clock in the morning. Document that. And then what you do is you keep on doing that, and when we start seeing a pattern with different cars, the officers will start investigating that, and then now we can determine if drugs are being sold or whatever's happening in that house. But that's how you start establishing a case, is by getting more information on the cars and people going back and forth. If there's a lot of high traffic, then yeah, there's probability that there's a drug house. So that all helps when we do the 241 COPS number. Leave all that information on there so that we can do the investigation afterwards and get on it.
And you can, well said, and you can also, if it's anonymous,
Yes.
if you choose to be with the 241 COPS, drug house number.
Can you explain the association between the security cops on the bikes in the Central West End and the cops on duty when you call 911?
They're not security officers.
I can, the bike officers are funded by the tax that's imposed here in the Central West End, in the special business district that you live in. The officers in the cars are the 9th district officers that are assigned to this area.
And to top that off, just to add that, you got to keep in mind, they are police officers.
Yeah, they're not.
And they are armed, they're police officers, they have the power to arrest, just like they do on the job. It's considered a secondary job.
We hire them, they're working off duty, but they're working for the neighborhood stabilization or the neighborhood security initiative in the special business districts. So if you call 911, they're not out there to answer radio calls. They're out there to interrupt crime, to patrol the area, to stop suspicious people. But if a call comes out and it's in the area where they're patrolling, they will respond. But the primary responsibility is on the district officers who are on duty to handle the assignment. And then the bike officers are here to make sure, supplement, we call them supplemental patrols.
Okay, so if there's one always kind of outside my area, my building, I guess. So if there's an incident, would I go to him or should I still call 911?
You could go to him if it's something that's immediate. You could go to him, and you can even dial 911 and say, hey, there's a policeman out here, but I still, because here's the thing, you can tell him. Whereas if you call 911, number one, it's recorded. So we have a recording of what you're saying, description, things like that. So with him, he's there. I mean, hey, use your first source. If he's there, get him. Most of the policemen I know carry their radios with them, so he can get on the radio, and they have special call letters that we use when we're off duty, that they can get a hold of somebody right away if it's an emergency and let us know. Okay?
Any other questions for our guests? Thank you.
Real quick, I'm just going to say one final thing. I'd like to say thank you. This is my first community meeting with communications. I've been to many throughout the city when I was assigned all over the city. And I personally want to invite each and every one of you to get with Jim White and maybe set up an appointment. We'd be more than happy to give you a tour of our building. It's not much. It's one floor. Really, it's 2 floors. We have what we call Comport on the 2nd floor, which handles all the installation of the radios and all our computers and things like that, the brains of our system. And then on the 3rd floor is where you would walk up and I kind of say, I don't want to hear me say this, it's kind of like the zoo. They're behind a glass window, and you can walk down the hallway and see all the dispatchers moving around, doing their job, and dispatching, and you can see the hustle and bustle that really goes on the floor. But again, I'll let Jim set something up if you want to come and visit. It'd be a quick tour, but maybe if you're coming down, you can kind of hit a couple places, maybe the academy and my building at the same time, something like that. Okay? So again, I wanted to invite you down if you get the opportunity. I'd appreciate it if you stop by.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it'd be worth our time to go down and actually see, you're the taxpayers, you're the ones that see, you know, when bond issues come up and the people are crying, we need new things. It's good to see firsthand what they're dealing with. And obviously one of the pressing issues is manpower, staffing. It's a labor-intensive operation, as you can see. We haven't gotten to the point where computers are answering the 911 calls. It's still that human interaction. So I want to thank them again. 911, you know, just to speak to your question about off-duty officers on bikes and stuff, there was some talk about creating a second system maybe. So, well, we don't want to call 911. We'd rather just call one of the bike officers. But what we don't want is the bike officers answering radio calls. We're paying them to do other things. But also, when we try to set something up outside what the police department's already set up, the police department now can no longer track what those officers are doing. If they're answering complaints about a suspicious person in an alley, the dispatcher doesn't know that that officer's going there, what they're encountering, or what they're doing, and that creates a risk to the officers that we have answering radio calls. Not to mention, if you know, now that number's starting to go down because we're using another system and no one's using the 911 system. That we can't track calls, we can't track outcomes. We don't know if calls are being made now if we're not utilizing the system that's up and running. And I will say, 911 is not perfect, but it's something that's set up around the whole country. And I spoke to Ron before the meeting. You know, if there's improvements that need to be made, they need to come from the community, and the community needs to initiate those changes. They do now have, as I learned, you can go on to the police department's website and go to the 911 section and actually fill out a questionnaire about your interaction with your 911 experience. And so they take those comment forms, if you will, and that's how they critique what they're doing. But I would be more than happy to set up a tour of the 911 system if anybody's interested. We're probably going to go ahead with that. I see some head shaking, and we'll take an evening and go down there for an hour and take a look and see what how it all operates. It's pretty amazing. So yes, Riley.
Jim, I wonder if it's fair to ask, how long might you expect to wait in sort of a worst case situation?
That's a good
Anybody know?
for
911.
I would like to say that we, personal goal, we call it like a greatest service. I would like to say that if you hit 911, a 10-second gap, maybe, like, not even a gap, I'm saying, from the minute you hit that, I'd like to see it. That's my personal opinion.
You'd be talking to somebody.
Right. And believe it or not, I kind of chuckle because in our office, we have this blue light, and I call it the Kmart special, blue light special. So if even one call, say I have 5 911 dispatchers, and all 5 of them pick up a call at the same time, that 6th call is going to go up to that blue light, and it's going to, there's a scan that comes across that says, This call is in hold for 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. It lets us know that hey, you got a call in queue in 911, let's roll it. Let's get these questions going. Let's find out what we got to do to try to stay in sync. And there's a blue light on both ends of the floor. And like I said, when you come visit, like I said, that's my big joke. Hey, we got another blue light special going. And I mean, and it just goes, you know, it can go on a regular basis. I was talking to somebody earlier. I said, if we had an incident like what happened in Boston, that light would be nonstop because everybody wants to call. And it's important that we talk to everybody because I may say, hey, we got that information, sir. Thank you. Click and hang up. And he said, wait a second. I saw a guy running down the street with a backpack. He didn't get that information. So if I just cut you short, then I could be giving away very important information that could help solve that case. So, you know, when we ask these questions, we're going to be quick. We're going to be sharp. We're going to be to the point. And a lot of people take it as being abrasive. We're not being abrasive to you. We got a job to do. We want to get that information because as quick as we get that information, the quicker we can get a policeman there to help you. Okay? So we have that light up there. You'll see it if you come and visit. It's a really, you know, it's a unique tool that when you look at it, you're going, really a blue light, you know? And then, but when you watch it, it'll tell you. You have 2 calls in queue. They're being held for 1, 2, 3, and the seconds start ticking away. And it keeps running until that blue light stops. So they're constantly on it. You know, it's really, it's one of those things until you see it, you'll be like,
Don't assume that someone called. That happens all the time. You know, a big car crash, oh, certainly someone called and no one called. You know, I don't know how many, I get emails all the time from people saying, hey, something was going on at the Comfort Inn 3 nights ago, and there were some shots fired, and I just wanted to know if you knew about anything about that. And I looked, and no one had called the police, but they did in that case. I think most of you are familiar with the term the neighborhood ownership model. It's something that the Circuit Attorney's Office, the City of St. Louis, and the Police Department have all bought into. It is a method to empower citizens, residents of neighborhoods, to take ownership of their neighborhood and to make an impact on crime. It's up and running. It is very successful in a lot of the neighborhoods in the city. What are there, like 79 neighborhoods in the city or something like that? A lot of the Lafayette Park or Lafayette Square, Gravois Park, Dutchtown, Forest Park Southeast are all neighborhoods that have bought into the neighborhood ownership model. Okay, so the neighborhood ownership model in the Central West End is not going to be successful because Jim White is running it. This is a community-based entity. It requires people in the community to get involved and to take ownership of their neighborhood. So in order for us to reap the benefits of that, we need to get residents involved. We have a 9th District officer now who's recently been assigned to help manage this, but it's Paul Hankhouse. He's a 9th District police officer. But he's got to manage this ownership model not only in the Central West End, but in the Forest Park Southeast neighborhood, and the Botanical Heights neighborhood, and the, what's the one east of Grand down by Slough Hospital? Gate? No. What neighborhood is that? Is it Gate? I always think of the 8th District when the Gate. The Gate District, I mean, any neighborhood that wants this and wants to stand it up and get it going the police department has made the commitment that we'll provide a police officer to be a liaison for you. So it's successful. It talks about citizen patrols. It talks about writing impact statements to judges. There's a component to get involved in court advocacy and victim advocacy. Now, I'm not saying that our citizen patrol in the Central West End has to look like other neighborhoods. There's a lot of resources and money put toward bike patrols by police officers. But our neighborhood patrol could be several people going, on a walk 3 times a week, and just, being observant, carrying your cell phone, and reporting any suspicious behavior. That could be the extent of what our neighborhood patrol looks like. Or it could be something, depending on the climate and the buy-in from the people, it could be something where you're in a car, and like in some neighborhoods. Some neighborhoods are actually in a car and they're out there. Some neighborhoods are, you know, pretty rough, but they're out there and they're reporting. They're the eyes and ears for the police department. So if any of that court advocacy, neighborhood patrol, impact statements to judges, if any of that interests you at all, I would first and foremost suggest getting on our website and sending us an email saying you'd like to be a part of something. We have about 12 people already that are interested in the court advocacy, but you know, on any given day, hey, I got to work, I can't go on that court hearing. It's a real neat experience. There's some people that have attended some of those, and it's really neat to show up and to either be heard by the judge or to be seen by the judge and have an impact in how that defendant is sentenced. So if that's something that interests you, if you're retired or semi-retired, you're looking to, you know, it's not a huge time commitment. It's the power of numbers. The more people we get involved, the less actually you'll have to. But for all the components of the neighborhood ownership model, we would like a resident of the Central West End to be the team leader. And we will make sure you get the right training and the tools that you'll need, which will go into our new office here in a minute. But Paul Hankhouse, our neighborhood ownership model police officer, most of you know him. He comes to these meetings quite frequently. But he's an 11-year veteran of the police department. He's been assigned to the 9th District for a long time, and he's been assigned to the Detective Bureau most recently. But he's also been a part of the police department's crime analysis unit, their audit advisory unit. It's because he was an accountant before he came on the police department. He came to the police department late in life. And he's also been a part of the problem properties or the nuisance property unit. So great guy. Here he is today sitting at our new office working with Isabella on a couple cases. So, and you know, this liaison helps us. If you want to, I call the police department the black hole. You call there, nobody answers the phone, you can't get a hold of anybody. But if there are any questions that you want to know about calls and follow-ups and outcomes, that's the benefit of having a neighborhood ownership model assigned to us. We can find those answers out in a couple of days usually. All right, I'm going to wrap up. We got about 5 minutes. Like us on Facebook. I think you click on, I'm not a big Facebook person, but Rachel LeGrand, our media and communications intern, has done a wonderful job of getting our Facebook up and running, and it's a source of information if that's how you communicate. So go on there and
every new thing posted will go straight to our Facebook page, and you can follow the link from our Facebook page. Like this meeting will be going on our website, but there will be a link to the website with the summary on the Facebook page right away, probably by Friday morning.
And our website is right underneath there, cwe@si.com. On the website are my email addresses, Isabella's email address, Sarah's email address, and ways to get a hold of us. Our new office, we moved off of McPherson and Euclid, and we're now a block and a half north. We're at the corner of Washington and Euclid. There's a little parking lot on the west side of the street there, right across from Coco Loco. Ground floor used to be a vintage clothier, and now that's going to be home to not only what we're doing, but also the bike officers. We're going to consolidate. They're all going to move in there too. And on top of that, we're going to make it hopefully a police substation. And a substation will have a police department computer in there, and then hopefully it'll keep the officers down in this area while they're patrolling, instead of having to drive all the way back over on Jefferson and Dr. King to do the reports. They can come right to the office. So, you know, obviously we want to try and get a refrigerator in there and entice them to come in, but it's got air conditioning, which is good this time of year. So, the CWEsane.com is just a good place to go to that gets you some, lets you know what's going on in the Central West End. It's something that we track, so we can adjust manpower accordingly for big events. But if you want to know what's going on in the Central West End, that's one source of information. Yes.
What are your hours there?
They vary, because sometimes I'm at court or sometimes I'm in meetings, but come by. We're usually there during the day, 9 to 5 kind of thing, but sometimes on weekends. If you're out walking around and you want to come in and see it, we're going to have an open house as soon as we get situated. So.
Your bikers do that all night long?
The bike officers are out till 6 in the morning. Yep.
So do they go there?
Yep. They will. They haven't yet. They will. They'll be coming in and out of that office at all hours of the day. And I would just encourage everyone to get involved. That doesn't require a lot of time. It could be something as simple as writing a letter, or even more so stepping up and being a team leader. Call 911 to report crimes of suspicious behavior. It benefits everyone. Just yesterday, case in point, if no one had called, that burglar wouldn't have been caught, and he would. I always say, each crime is committed by one identifiable source. The sooner the police can identify that source, the sooner crime will stop. That's how we stop crime or reduce crime, finding who's committing it. It sounds simple, but
Is he in jail now?
he is not in jail. He was issued a summons for trespassing. He's been identified. Because he didn't actually break into the house. He just went onto their property without permission. That's a trespassing charge. Oh, was it yours? Okay.
And I was watching it.
So he's not in jail, but unless the police charge him with something else, and I haven't heard back from the
If you're on
detective.
probation, that doesn't count.
Well, it counts because we called St. Louis County
Yeah.
earlier. I called the
Yeah.
county, the prosecutor, to initiate a probation revocation hearing. And I'm tracking his case in the county on CaseNet now. So when I know that his hearing's coming up, I will be sending something out to the residents to say, let's go to St. Louis County and sit in their courtroom and let them know. We're also contacting the city councilor's office to get a neighborhood order of protection. He doesn't live in the central West End. What a neighborhood order of protection will do, it's signed by a judge saying, stay away. If he comes in the West End and the officers stop him and the order is active, they can arrest him on that for violating the judge's order.
Did they find the Radio Shack person?
Not that I know of. The question was, did they find the person that smash and grab at the Radio Shack where they rammed the car into the...
They found the truck.
They found the truck a block away, yes.
Stolen.
Hopefully they'll look for evidence in there to try and identify
There's
them.
no cameras back there, huh?
I don't think so.
In that alley?
Right. Any other questions? Our next meeting isn't until August 28th, so enjoy the summer. It's kind of a long gap, that's why I want to bring those officers in right away. But, enjoy your summer. It doesn't mean you can't call our office if you have